Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Sunday. Today's the Sabbath, so we're going to be playing a Sabbath-themed deck today based on the Bible, based off of teachings and parables and events that happen in the Bible. So we have furnace in there because of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego who were thrown into the furnace. Void is there to represent the plagues that Moses put on Egypt because he turned all the water into blood, and void kind of looks like blood. And there was also a spell of darkness, and void is also essentially a pit of darkness, so that represents the plagues of Egypt. And then we have a couple of cards that represent parables. The hogs is for the prodigal son who ended up getting his inheritance and spending it all, and so it talked about him having to feed the pigs and how he wished that he was eating the food that the pigs were eating. And then vines is a parable of like the olive branches and the olive trees, and how Jesus is the vine, and all the believers need to be essentially attached to him in order to grow and thrive. And then we have cards that represent his life, kind of more in the New Testament, because a lot of his apostles were fishermen. He performed many miracles and healing. When he was crucified, it talks about the earth shaking, there being earthquakes. And then when he rose from the dead, an angel rolled the stone away from his tomb, and the bowler also rolls stones. So I guess in this example, bowler is an angel, even though he doesn't look like an angel, but I thought that was kind of a good symbolism there. So that's what we're going to be playing today. And the message that I wanted to share with you is about how important it is to take care of your physical body. And I think it's something that a lot of people overlook. And because everyone has goals and ambitions and things that they want to do in life, and so in the pursuit of that, I think a lot of people look past taking care of their physical self. Like, for example, if you're going to school and your goal is to get good grades and do well in classes there, then that might be what you spend all of your time on. And terrible vines, by the way. That might be what you spend all your time on, and it might consume. Also, is this guy playing only buildings? I think he's only played buildings so far. But anyway, that might be what you spend all of your time on. You might spend all of your time going to classes, studying, and doing things of that nature. And you might neglect your own body. You might forget to eat. You might stay up late in the night working on projects, and so you don't get a whole lot of sleep. And I think that's what a lot of people do. A lot of people neglect their physical self in the pursuit of their goals, and it's not a very healthy thing to do. And this is something that it's something that I experienced. I kind of experienced both sides of, because I've kind of had a interesting relationship with food and with physical health. For a while, when I was a kid, I essentially ate really unhealthy foods, and I essentially ate a lot of the wrong foods. And then when I was a teenager, I kind of I started what I thought was being healthier. I started kind of eating better and exercising, and then I felt really self-conscious at one point, to where I didn't really eat any food at all, and I was essentially starving myself, and I thought that was healthy. And then after that, when I realized that that wasn't the case, this is a really annoying deck to play against. Yeah. But essentially later, when I realized that I was kind of living in deprivation, then I started eating too much and being full all the time to kind of compensate for that period. And so I've kind of been on both sides of the spectrum of knowing what it's like to deprive yourself and also knowing what it's like to have too much of something that's unhealthy. And it makes it really hard to accomplish what you want to accomplish. Because if your physical body isn't working properly, then it's really hard to do anything with it. And I think a good analogy is the more you study, the more you kind of work towards your goals. That's like giving yourself more potential, giving yourself the potential to do really well. Kind of like having a really nice car. It's kind of like having a sports car. The more you study, the more you learn. That's like having the potential to be really strong, to be really fast. But if you're not taking care of your body, that's kind of like filling up that race car with regular fuel instead of the high octane fuel that it needs. So no matter how nice of a car it is, it's not going to be able to run properly if it's not getting the nutrients that it needs. And that's something that, again, I've kind of been, it's something that I've experienced. And so I'd encourage you guys to not look past that, to not work so hard at achieving your goals that you neglect your physical self. So, I would set one small goal. I'd encourage you guys to just set one small goal to improve your physical health in some way. And it looks different for everyone. I don't know how it's going to look for you, but, if you constantly go to sleep super late or you wake up later than you want to, then maybe it's setting a goal to go to sleep a little bit earlier. If you are kind of at school or at classes all day and you just kind of forget to eat, maybe your goal is to set regular times for you to eat so that you don't forget to. And again, I don't know exactly how it'll look for you, but essentially when you take care of your physical self, it makes it easier to achieve your goals. And even if your goals aren't physical, even if your goals are related to even if they're related to school, even if you just want to study, get good grades in class, your brain needs nutrients to be able to function properly. And if you're not taking care of your physical self, you're not really going to succeed no matter how hard you try. So I'd encourage you guys to do that. Set a small goal for yourself to take care of your physical self a little bit better, because once you start taking care of the vessel that you live in, that you're going to be using to achieve those goals, it'll probably come easier. So anyway, that's the message that I'd like to share with you all today. Hopefully you learned something, and I will see you in the next video.